We're going to get deeper into the Eagles now. He just came out of the locker room. John McMullen, Birds 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Of course, he covers the Eagles as well as the NFL for Sports Illustrated, and he joins us each week throughout the Eagles season right now on 97.3 ESPN. John, welcome in. I'm sure you're as happy as anyone that we are basically 48 hours or less away from the start of this game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's always interesting, and it gets even worse if they win because then you got the extra week. So a little paralysis by over-analysis, but this is it. Last preparation. I'll have a walkthrough tomorrow, but obviously that's closed to the media. So
right.
Last practice today, Cam Jurgens and Dallas Goedert were able to get back. Very short practice, didn't do much, but the indication is that Dallas is certainly playing. He verbalized that today. Cam declined to talk because he was headed to treatment, but the indication he gets from his teammates is that he's going to try to play. So it becomes, and to a lesser degree, Jalen Hurts and Quinyon Mitchell, because we knew they were playing. But
right.
With all of these players, it's they're not 100%, so you got to kind of see where they are when they get out there.
So that kind of brings me to one of my questions I want to bring up to you, because I was kind of explaining this to the audience, and I think you could verbalize this better than I can, John, which is, I thought it was very planned by the Eagles to say, hey, we're practicing outdoors, so Goddard and Jurgens are not going to practice those days. But now that we're back inside the NovaCare bubble, they can practice on Friday. So that seems like a lot of pre-planned setup by the Eagles. Is that fair?
No, I don't think that had anything to do with the injuries. I think it was more of, obviously, and if you go back even a week before the Rams, it's been very cold in the area, and the practice fields are frozen at the NovaCare complex, and they had been practicing at Lincoln Financial Field.
Okay.
And today is more of an hour, and it actually went less than an hour, probably 50 minutes, so very small practice, and the thought was just that, why are we taking these buses over for 45, 50 minutes? It had more to do with that than anything else. And the practice fields are still too frozen outside, so they went inside. I don't think that had anything to do with Cam or Dallas.
Gotcha. Well, obviously Jurgens, they're describing as a back on the injury report. We saw Landon Dickerson getting snaps at practice yesterday. I just wanted to get your thoughts on, and obviously we don't hope for this to happen, but, if Jurgens does wake up on Sunday and his back locks up, the plan would be for what? Dickerson to be the center and Steen to be left guard?
Yeah, that's how they would approach it. And who knows, maybe even have to do it in game, but, Landon's a big-time center. For those who don't know, he actually played center at Alabama.
All-American.
All-American, and he was drafted. People forget there were so many heir apparents to Jason Kelce. You really got to go back to Isaac Seumalo, who was drafted to be his heir apparent. Landon was drafted to be his heir apparent. And then in his rookie year, you remember, injury first to Brandon Brooks, who was playing right guard at the time, and that forced him into the lineup. And then Isaac Seumalo at left guard, and he flipped over to play left guard, and he ultimately was so good, they didn't want to move him, and they ended up drafting Cam Jurgens, who finally was the heir apparent to Jason Kelce. But he's a big-time center. So, I think I told you yesterday on the show, or Ryan, and I wouldn't be worried about center. I'd be worried about left guard. That's where the drop-off would be, because Landon is, he's a big-time offensive lineman in this league, whether he's playing guard or center.
Yeah, I chuckled when Lane Johnson said that he's the strongest boy in the country and that he can do whatever he wants. So it made me chuckle a little bit because Lane kind of just
country said the county, the old county,
county
fair.
Yeah, the county fair. Yeah, but it made me laugh because Lane's basically he's like basically kind of what you're saying is like, look, we're not worried about Landon, kind of thing.
Yeah. Landon, like I said, he was a better college center than Cam.
It's true.
To be honest, he would have been a first-round pick if he had not torn his ACL.
Yep.
And he tore his ACL in the SEC championship game, and which is obviously very late in the season, and he still was picked 37th. So he was a big-time prospect. Would have been a first-round pick as a center if he had not torn his ACL.
Talking with John McMullen, Birds 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel at JF McMullen on the Twitter X platform, and of course covers the Eagles NFL as well for Sports Illustrated. John, one of the conversations obviously being had this week is this is the third time these teams are playing. I know that for some of the Eagle players, they have expressed that, hey, we like the fact we're playing Washington because there's a lot of guys who felt like they should have beat them in the last matchup. Is that the vibe you're getting from the locker room, that the guys are, for lack of a better way of saying it more politely, they're looking forward to facing off with this team again?
I get more of the impression that it's about the Eagles. They kind of feel like if they play their game, they're gonna win. So they're kind of hyper focused on, it's about them, not the opponent, and that's how I think the approach is. So, I think, this is the third, as I described it, the third championship game, obviously in 8 years, but this is actually a lesser talented team than Minnesota in 2017, and that game was 38-7.
Right.
And which would have been the 2018 championship game. And then the 23 championship game, San Francisco was really talented, and they lost 31-7 because Hassan Reddick wrecked the game. So this is actually, of the three teams at the moment, this is probably the lesser talented of the three. But then again, and people, I don't want people to expect 38-7 or 31-7 because it's rare. You have to have the right circumstances to have a blowout like that. And if you played those games 10 times, maybe they wouldn't be blowouts. So, but, Washington's got to be careful in this one because the Eagles are the much more talented team from 1-53.
Obviously, one of the matchups, John, coming into this game, people are going to be very curious about to see when it comes, at least for the Eagles side of things. We know that Saquon got 150, 147 against Washington previously, and Washington, they just allowed 200 rushing yards to the Lions. So is it as simple as let Saquon do what he's doing, don't turn the ball over, and you beat the Commanders?
Yeah, probably. The Eagles kind of believe that if they don't turn it over, they're going to win no matter what, no matter how it looks. But, yeah, they've been what they are offensively for a long time now, basically since week 5. So I don't think it's changing. But you do have to have some concern because if you go to the second game against Washington, Jaylen got hurt 6 minutes into the game or whatever it was. And, Saquon did have the one long run after Jaylen left, but the second half, they really clamped down, and the Eagles couldn't run the ball without the +1 impact, really, of Jalen Hurts. So got to see if Jalen is healthy. He's not going to be healthy, completely healthy. He's going to wear a brace. He did confirm that today. So how mobile is he going to be? If Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu figure out, all right, we don't have to worry about him pulling the football, then it becomes much more difficult for Saquon, and maybe you have to go a little bit in a different direction. But I don't think the Eagles go in thinking that way. They're going to have to see they think they can run the ball on anybody. So, and it's hard to argue with them at this point.
Absolutely. And John, to that point, we did see some moments in the game on Sunday where, Eagle fans are, they want to question everything, right? Well, what can the Eagles learn from what they did or didn't do versus the Rams and bring it into this game versus the Commanders?
Well, I think, some of the stuff is obvious. I mean, you can't miss 2 extra points and
Sure.
That gave the Rams an opportunity to win the game at the end. They didn't obviously finish drives, and they need to do a better job of that after the fumbles in the second half, which made it much more difficult. And that's what we've been talking about for 3 months is you have this group I think of fans that say, well, they're running the football. They have the number 1 defense. It doesn't matter. But it does matter when it comes to the margin of error, which I always talk about. That's what you're trying to increase. Anybody can win anyway. Let's go back to the Green Bay playoff game when they beat San Francisco on a block punt. You can win a game on a block punt. I wouldn't count on it. You're not going to do it consistently. So that's what you're trying to do as an offense. You're trying to increase your margin of error. And, bottom line is Matthew Stafford had the ball at the 13-yard line with over a minute left with a chance to steal that game. And if it went in a different direction, I think people would be losing their minds.
Right.
Was how poor that passing game was against the Rams, 65 net yards. But it's hard to be honest with yourself when you're winning. I think the Eagles are honest with themselves behind the scenes because they've been trying to fix this for a long time. And they haven't been able to do it consistently, but, they'll continue to do it. But, at this point, they only got to get through 8 more quarters. So they're not changing. They're going to lean on the running game and the defense, but if Jaylen's health impacts things, that could keep Washington in the game.
John, you mentioned the defense. That's where I want to get to you a couple more before I let you go. Jaylen Carter, he's going to be going against the backup for Washington. Cosmi is out. He's arguably Washington's best offensive lineman. And so now Carter is going to have a guy early in the game where he could potentially dictate the pace of this game. Do you think the Eagles are going to try to attack that interior line of Washington early on Sunday?
Well, Sam Cosmi is probably their best offensive lineman, so that's a big loss for them. But even you would expect, in some ways, I mean, this is a Cliff Kingsbury thing. He's got to give Jaylen Carter the Aaron Donald treatment. So, and that means he should not see one snap where he's not double teamed. They should be sliding protection. And obviously he's got a very mobile quarterback. He's got to move the pocket around because, if it's 1-on-1, he's going to wreck the game. And Cliff's going to have a lot to answer to. In some ways, it might, in a weird way, it might be a silver lining for Washington because they might think they could get away with it a little bit with Cosmi, and they probably couldn't, even if Cosmi played. And now they probably know, all right, we got to slide protection every single snap. I mean, and when I say every single snap, it's Donald, every single snap.
We know Jaylen Carter was the most double-teamed guy on defense in the NFL this year, John, so that's not something he's had to deal with enough. But I will say I was watching a film breakdown from Ross Tucker and Bo Allen, and they were explaining that, at the end of the Rams-Eagles game when Jaylen Carter got those 2 big plays, that there was a huge miscommunication between the center and the guard, and then the guard and the tackle, where they were going the wrong directions multiple plays. So I am just curious, if 2 guys who've been playing next to each other for most of the year, like the Rams have that miscommunication, I'm assuming that a second string guard next to the center could potentially have the same miscommunications.
That's possible. I mean, offensive line. A lot of it is communication related. Same thing with the secondary. A lot of communication, and you see breakdowns and blown coverages. Same thing with the offensive line. So yeah, that's it's always a chance, and you'll know if it happens, because if he's got one-on-one, he's gonna win more often than not, especially against a backup level player. So yeah, one of the things is the Rams had a rookie center. Tyler Biotic is the Commander center, veteran guy, knows how to do it, so that should probably help. So it might be a little bit better from their perspective, because generally the center is the one who takes that lead, and if there is communications issues, it's probably going to be on them, but not always. And yeah, they better get it right, because if they don't get it right, it's going to be a long day.
John, before I let you go, the other storyline coming into this game, of course, the last time the Eagles played Washington, C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets thrown out of the game. Washington scores 22 points after that point on. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has admitted that he basically took the blame for the loss. What is that storyline going into this game about the Eagles' secondary rematching with Washington?
Yeah, I don't think much. I mean, CJ kind of understands he made a mistake, and he's verbalized that a couple times. And he's too important to the defense to be doing that. I think as often in the NFL, a lot of people don't understand the rules. Unsportsmanlike conduct calls are automatic ejections. There's no waiver room. So if you get one, you have to know that as a veteran player. All right, you get another one, you're out. So you got to be very cognizant of it. And he seems to have learned from it, as I said. So I wouldn't be concerned with that part of it at all.
All right, John, before I let you go, I got to do my best Mike Gill imitation, which is, what is your pick for the game on Sunday? Who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I just think the Eagles would have to make a lot of mistakes. I think the Eagles are going to win the game, and if they don't win the game, they're going to beat themselves. I don't think the Washington Commanders are going to beat them. So, as I said, of these three championship games, and I've covered the first two, and this will be the third. This is the one where they're the clearly, definitively better team. But while I say that, I don't expect 38-7 or 31-7. So I think it'll be closer than that, partially because of the way the Eagles are playing this year, which kind of allows teams to stay in the game with them. So I'm looking for a 27-22 type Eagles win, maybe a late Washington touchdown, though. Shouldn't be that close, but it'll look closer on paper.
John McMullen at JF McMullen on the Twitter X platform. Of course, Birds 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, and all of his Eagles NFL coverage with Sports Illustrated. John, great stuff today. Appreciate you jumping on. And we will be talking to you again on Monday about what happens in the NFC Championship game.
All right, Josh. Thanks, bud.